Hi, I'm Joe from Knight Power Sports Products, and this is our Can-Am Shore 4 with tank lever kit. Inside the box, you'll get our thank you card, a sticker, information about getting to this video you're watching now, and our safe box. You have our Shore 4 manual four-wheel drive actuator, the tank lever itself, which has the pull cable and wire harness already attached to it, a connector, and some O-rings. So now let's go ahead and install it on this Can-Am Renegade. On this particular vehicle, the first thing we're going to remove is our safe box and other accessory, but it will be different if you have other accessories or the Can-Am Outlander. The concept is still the same. We're first going to start to remove accessories and the plastics. Those are removed, so now we're going to remove the seat. Next, we're going to remove this plastic. It pops out right here. Pull it forward just a little bit so that the front part unhooks, and then these just pop out, and now this whole plastic comes off this way. Get it over your shift lever here. This comes off like that. Next, on this one, we have to remove this cowling that has two push fasteners right here. Pull these out, and then up front is just pushed in. Remove this like that. So we're going to unplug this now that we have this removed. You don't have to, but we are going to unplug it to get it out of the way. Next, we're going to remove this plastic. This is held in with two push fasteners, two pop-ins over here. There's no screws or push fasteners, actually. They're just these pop-in ones. Another one right here, another one right here, and then this other part down here. You have to kind of bend your plastic around and push down on it to get that part to slide out. Next, we're going to remove this plastic. There's two screws. This one here I already removed, and then this one here. And the other part back here was held in and popped out from the frame. Next, you're going to follow the wiring from your two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive switch down into the front of the vehicle over here. You're going to find where it plugs into your wire harness. This is a 6-pin connector. It might be hidden a little bit more than that, somewhere down there, but just follow the wiring from the switch and unplug it. And then on the side of your vehicle wire harness, take the connector that came with your kit and plug this in right here. And then you can use a zip tie or something and secure that out of the way. You won't need that again. Next, we're going to remove your two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive switch. Any zip ties or anything that's holding your wiring in, remove that. Get that so that it's free, and then remove the 3 screws that hold it in. And as you take those 3 screws out, here, here, and here, be careful with your throttle. This is going to drop down, so just guide that and let that hang down. Next, we're going to install the tank lever. You can take the pull cable and the wiring harness and just let them hang for right now. We'll route them in a second. The tank lever goes right where that housing was. And make sure that this gasket is in there flush, just like that. And the tank lever goes on and the 3 screws go back in. Now, we did find that on some of the Can-Ams, the hole pattern is not exactly the same. And so if your screws won't fit, you may need to just make these holes slightly larger. You could use a 1/4-inch drill bit, and you're just going to be making those holes larger. You're not hurting anything. You're not changing anything. The screws don't thread into this, they just go right through. So by opening them up, it allows them to move around a little bit to line up with this housing here. Again, that's just, there's some Can-Ams that have the hole pattern slightly different than others. So put this in here, on here like this, and then put those 3 screws in. All right, so now we can route the wiring. Take these parts here, undo this. So this part is what plugs into, for your button here, to your auxiliary, whatever you have hooked up. On this quad, it's the halos for a light bar or whatever. And then this, you're gonna take and run with your pull cable. Make sure your pull cable goes on a nice sweeping bend around this way here. You might have some different things here depending on your vehicle, but this wiring harness and your pull cable should get routed smooth, out of the way of anything. Tuck it in like this. You know, it's gonna go somewhere over here. We'll actually use zip ties and stuff in a little bit. Right now we're just routing it all the way around and down towards the electronic actuator that's down there. And yeah, that's it for now. Now we'll take that off. Next, we can unplug the electric actuator right here. Push on this clip here and get that to slide off, and plug this into the wire harness provided. Just like this. You can put dielectric grease on there now. And then move this out of the way for now. We will fasten all these with zip ties and stuff in place in a little while. Next, we're going to remove the actuator. There's a screw here, there's one down here, and then another one kind of underneath it over here. You may need to remove the footwell on the Outlander or even on this one if you want, but you don't have to. You can get to it like this. But before we remove that, I'm going to raise up the right side of the vehicle, because if you were to take that off right now, oil would come out. So the other option is you could drain the oil if you want. It's not a lot of oil, but there is a significant amount. So if you just raise up the right side of the vehicle, secure it very well with jack stands and stuff, then you won't have to take the oil out. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay. So now I got the screws out. Just pull on this like that, straight out, and it'll come off. You can see the oil was there. So you can see inside here, this shaft right here is towards the back of the ATV. That is your two-wheel drive position. So when I spin the front wheel, see it spins freely. The back wheels are not trying to spin at all. When I go to shift this by pushing it to the front, right there, it hits a hard spot and it won't go forward anymore. I need to just rock the wheel a little bit, and now you can see it went all the way forward. That is your four-wheel drive position. And that will happen because the gears inside don't line up, so you may need to move when you're shifting from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive. And you can see when I rock this wheel now, it won't spin because the back wheel on the other side is on the ground. You can see this wheel trying to spin. And then again, if I move this to the back of the ATV, that's two-wheel drive, and then forward is four-wheel drive. So we're going to push this all the way to the back, just like that. That's the position we want this in when we install the manual actuator. Next, we are going to install the actuator. So take it out of the bag, take the lid off, like this. Now we're gonna put the O-ring on the back of the actuator in this bag. Take one of these large O-rings out and roll this over into the groove that's on here. On the lid, there's the same groove that you'll put the other O-ring on. Then take the small O-ring out of this bag. Put this on the end of the pull cable here, just like that. Thread that nut all the way up, so now that O-ring is on there. Then take the pull cable and thread it into the actuator, or thread the actuator onto the cable. Really, you're gonna have to spin the actuator like this. You're gonna have to get something, a tool to hold the end of the pull cable. All right, tighten this down onto the actuator. Just get that snug. You're sealing that O-ring in there. Next, make sure the lever is in two-wheel drive so that you can get the slack out of this cable that you need. And also on the cable itself right here is the adjuster. So I can see there's a little bit unscrewed on the adjuster. I'm gonna screw it all the way down right now. I'm holding this part so this doesn't spin, spinning this part in so there's no thread showing. That gives me more pull cable down here, and I'm going to loop this into the opening here. If you want, you can rotate this like this. That'll give you a little more room so that you can easily get the pull cable in. Okay, now my pull cable is in place here. And now we can install the actuator onto the engine here. So it goes in this orientation. You're going to be lining the holes up, but then you're actually going to rotate the actuator counterclockwise just a little bit. So get it where it starts to slide in, then go counterclockwise just a bit. That gets the fork lined up with the shaft in there. Push it straight on, then you can rotate it back clockwise so the holes line up. You can feel on the top over here that the actuator is flush against the engine, and you can do the same thing on the bottom. Make sure that the actuator is flush and all the way on, just like that. Now you can put the 3 screws back in. So now we're going to make the adjustment on the cable. First, we're going to shift into 4-wheel drive. So we see that this has barely moved at all. I'm going to just go back to 2-wheel drive. You can see from there, and then 4-wheel drive, it's barely moved. This has to move a lot more all the way over here. So we're going to go onto the adjuster on the pull cable here and start to unscrew this. And since there's a lot of tension on this, I'm just going to put it back to 2-wheel drive and then unscrew this. Go, I don't know, that's like maybe a ½ an inch. Start right there. Now shift it back into 4-wheel drive and look at the actuator, and you see how far it's moved. That's pretty good. We want this point, and this point to be lined up. If I take a straight edge, you can kind of see what I mean here. Between the center of this screw, the ball of the cable, and this screw hole over here. You want those kind of lined up. It could be just a little bit past is okay also. So I'm gonna put it back in 2-wheel drive, unscrew this a few more turns, and shift it back to 4-wheel drive. And I can see that that's good. I can push on this and see if I can move it anymore. That little tiny bit, that's fine. You're fully engaged in 4-wheel drive. You can see what I mean. Those are pretty lined up there, and I can't move it anymore. So that's good. We're in 4-wheel drive. So now I'm going to take this screw here, and I'm gonna tighten those down and pull this rubber housing. Now the adjustments are made, everything's tightened down. Put the O-ring on the lid and use the 3 screws that came with it and put the lid on. So now that's all zip tied and cleaned up, we're ready to hook up the auxiliary button that comes on your tank lever. There's no power going to these wires, they just run to the button itself. So if you don't have an auxiliary, you can just tuck these away. If you do, like on this ATV, we have the halos. The red wire goes to the power. This wiring harness is hooked up to a relay. That's how all of them should be. So the red wire goes to the power. The white wire goes to the ground, this one. And the blue wire goes to the 86 or 87 terminal. This one is the 86 terminal on the relay. So now when I push this button, the halos come on, and the blue LED on the tank lever comes on also. So we dropped it off the jack stands and we're done. We're ready to put the plastics back on. Everything's cleaned up, zip tied. So this plastic goes on, slides through a slot over here, just like you took it off. Then there's the push part that goes in here. Another push part in here, 2 over here. This part goes on, this back piece here clips into the frame, a part on the frame, and then these 2 screws get screwed in. Next, this piece goes in, put the connector back in, that. That over the snorkels, push these 2 pieces in up here like that, and then put the 2 push pins in there. This part slides on, same way you took it off. Just over this like this, over that there. In the slots where it belongs. Push these in. There's the push pin in here that goes into the rubber grommet, and the same on the other side. And once you get those in, then these push in. Seat on. Seat goes on. that's it. We can move the lever and you can see that the display still works. So right now you see on the display, it's not showing anything there. That's 2-wheel drive. Now when I rotate the knob to the 4-wheel drive position, now that's in 4-wheel drive, and you can see we're in 4-wheel drive right there. And that off. I'm gonna take this press to rotate sticker off because I don't want it on there. You might wanna leave that on there if you let your friends use it. And that's it. Let's take it for a ride.